Hey! Hi, everybody. Last year I made a video about games that came out in 2017 that I played, and people liked it, and I liked making it. And a lot of people hit me up and they said, when are you making a 2018 one? And I started, and then I just never finished it. And now we're in June, and now I want to finish it. So, in case you don't know, I have a video on 2017 stuff, and now I'm going to make a video on 2018 stuff. This is a video on all the stuff that I played this year, so it's not necessarily stuff that came out in 2018, but it's anything that I played. I'll have a list of every game I talk about below, just so you'll be able to see it sort of in order. This video is less about me giving sort of a year in review in games that I played, and more just a way for me to reflect, catalog my thoughts about the stuff that I played, because I play a lot of games, and, you know, I kind of like talking about it, remembering certain things about it, stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. If I don't agree with you, sorry, it's just one dude's opinion. Why do you care so much? Stop. Also, just to get this out of the way right away, you will not be seeing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in this list. For anybody that doesn't know it, I don't know how you could have came across this without knowing me from Smash, but I am a Super Smash Bros. Commentator, and I spent a lot of time playing, watching, learning, doing all this stuff for Smash Ultimate, but it's not going to be on my list. It's really hard for me to put it into something like this since it occupies a space that's much larger than any other game could. I wouldn't really go so far as to call it like a lifestyle for me, because I actively don't let it consume my whole life, but it's definitely a huge chunk of my time. It's my side hustle, and it's a true passion. You're not going to see it here, even though I love Ultimate. I think it's incredible. I think it's a huge step up from Smash 4. I could talk about it for hours, but I'm not gonna. So let's move on with the actual list. All right, so first up, these are games that I did not like that I played in 2018. Please keep in mind that these are games that I personally just didn't enjoy. Maybe they weren't my style in one particular case. Maybe I just didn't feel invested enough in them, whatever. In any case, these games aren't necessarily bad. They just didn't resonate with me personally for whatever reason. Don't leave a comment telling me to change my mind, because I'm not gonna. But you can hear me out, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. But I didn't like these games. Here we go. Okay, just a second ago, I said that these games weren't necessarily bad. I lied. This game is atrocious. This is so bad. Jesus Christ. How did you screw it up this much? It launched as like this super underwhelming early access title a couple months or maybe even like years ago, and now it's this super underwhelming full game. It didn't get any better. I really am starting to dislike early access games. Like, it feels like it's full of these hype beasts like this and Hello Neighbor that churned out all these franchise deals and merchandise and all this GameStop crap before the game even came out. And that does nothing, at least for me, but breed this skepticism for stuff that is using the platform in a constructive way, for the way that it's intended. I can't ever buy an early access game. Like Dead Cells, good game, was in early access. Risk of Rain 2, which I played this year, very good game in early access. I'm scared to do that because of crap like this absolute schlock. So anyway, the game itself has what looks like this. Ostensibly, it looks intriguing. Like, the narrative looks like it might be cool, but it's stuck in this just fetid quagmire of these awful gameplay loops and these terrible, unsatisfying mechanics. Like, there's a hunger mechanic, but it doesn't do anything. Like, you could just walk around and be hungry forever. And, like, if that's one of the core things of your game, why did you do that? That's so stupid. There's also some, like, inventory management and disguised play stuff, but all it does is, like, bring gameplay to the screeching halt every couple of minutes, because, like, oh, you're not wearing the right costume. You ain't got your cop costume license. Like, it's stupid. Not every single game needs to be this open world, like, survival experience, and I hope that this game serves as, like, a cautionary tale for people looking to bloat their games with this unnecessary crap. Just, like, tell a good story and you're fine. It could have been a walking sim. I'm okay with walking sims. That's fine. Stop trying to shove gameplay into these things where you really just want to tell a story. This game is awful. Oh, man. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Okay, I need to reiterate here that in some cases, bad games are not necessarily bad, and you're going to see that in a few minutes. And good games aren't necessarily good, just ones that I thought were interesting enough, or, like, ones that I had fun enough to merit regarding them with a certain level of, like, goodwill, you know? And I say that because, like, I certainly had lots of fun with The Quiet Man. I streamed it, and the FMV beat 'em up sort of mishmash sounded like a dream for me because it's just putting together two things that I really like. And it wasn't. It was terrible. The gameplay itself is super light. It's rudimentary. The story makes absolutely no sense, even when you play it the second time with audio. Apparently, they put this game out, and it's totally silent, except when it's not. It doesn't really follow its own rules. But the second time you play it, it adds audio, and you're like, oh, okay, that should, make more sense. It doesn't. It doesn't do anything. And the Quiet Man isn't even quiet. He talks a lot. He has to give expository dialogue. It's insane. There's not really anything else to talk about here. This might be the worst AAA published game of all time. Not just of this year, but like ever made. Think about that. Square Enix put their stamp on this. There's some games that I would like absolutely never play without people to laugh about it with, and this has got to be like at the top. It's like this in Life is Strange. I don't know what the hell's going on with Square Enix, but somebody needs to check on them. And here's another one. Look at that. Good Lord, what a crock this is. Oh my God. I was hoping for like an unnerving walking sim with like, 50s cartoon tricks and aesthetics and like visual stuff. But instead, it's just Kids Bop Slenderman. That's all it is. Maybe it was like unrealistic to hope for the same kind of visual wizardry I saw in stuff that last year, like Observer and things like that. But I thought there had to be some reason that this game had something resembling a fan base. I see toys for it in Target. And I'm like, okay, something's going on there. Maybe it's good. No, it's not. It's bad. It's so bad. I think some games of this ilk get a bad rep. Like Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that's a good example of, kind of a simple but effective gameplay loop that is very well made, and it boils down to sort of the tenets of horror games into base elements. I think it's a really cool idea. It's got some kind of neat lore attached to it too. Five Nights is cool. But Bendy doesn't have anything like that. It's not even remotely comparable. I only played through the first episode, and maybe cool stuff happens, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm done. This was bad. It was very not good. Not even scary. I don't know why they did this. Oh my God, this game is a disappointment! Okay, after I spent a lot of time complaining that there weren't Souls-like games in different locales and time periods, because I was like, that's a no-brainer, Medieval Souls, that's already there, so why not get Future Souls, Cyberpunk Souls, School Souls, Real-Life Souls? You could do so many things with that formula. And then I finally got around to playing The Surge, right, which is sort of like a futuristic robot Souls. And for the first 6 to 8 hours, it's really cool. I was totally hooked. The visuals are cool. Combat is mostly fun. And the unique approach to sort of leveling your suit felt like a really refreshing sort of take on the normal formula. It did enough different stuff that I thought, oh, okay, this is really cool. And I had no idea why so many people hated it. And then I found out. It's crazy. This game is kind of like a shitty boyfriend, because it just eventually it stops making an effort. It doesn't care. I'm stuck with it. What am I going to do? Move out? Am I going to delete my save? No, I'm going to stick in this shitty relationship until one of us moves. And that's what happened with The Surge. So the enemies take longer and longer to kill, and they become more and more dangerous. And the game just stops being fun to play. So one of the problems is that mostly in Souls games, enemies can be this sort of amorphous, giant beast thing, and you can't really tell what it's doing, and that's fine. But when it's all robots and they move mechanically, you can't possibly know what they're going to do, at least the first time you see them. It's hard to know their tells, and it's really frustrating. It's very rare for a game to start off this strong for me and to hit the brakes so hard, but Surge pulled it off. It did that. It doesn't happen often. I can't even remember a single moment or point where it happened either. I just remember slowly being ground down. It was just less and less fun. And I was like, why am I still doing this? This sucks. It's bad. It's sad. Sad. That's what it is. Okay, there's another game that I would not play without other people around, like I was saying with Quiet Man. So Life is Strange 2, Don't Nod kind of trades in this melodramatic teenage angst for politics stuff in the first episode of Life is Strange 2. And it does this unapologetically. It just thrusts you into this stuff. And I guess it's a noble endeavor, but I couldn't like, it feels so serious. You know what I mean? There's no levity to all of this. Part of the allure of Life is Strange for me personally was watching these teenage girls bemoan, like, normal teenage girl problems. Like, oh, I can't believe Sarah. She's such a bitch. And it treated, like, a hurricane, an actual hurricane, coming for Arcadia Bay with the same level of importance as, like, a cat fight with Taylor in the bathroom. You know what I mean? It's so silly. There were serious things that happened in the game, obviously, and, like, I'm not trying to make light of all the sexual assault stuff that happens, but that is bookended. That's the bookend of just this disgustingly just ridiculous sandwich. It's hilarious. But yeah, in this one, there's not much humor at all, intentional or otherwise, and not yet anyway. Like, when I recorded the script that I'm kind of reading from now, there was nothing, and now I'm 3 episodes in, and it's getting worse. So, I don't know what's going on. So, like, even when things get ridiculous, so, like, when the protagonist is tied up in a gas station back room for stealing, whether you stole or not, by the way, whether that happened or not, you're going to be back there. The series, like, penchant for just this ridiculousness doesn't lend well to actual serious subject matter. It's not a joke anymore. I feel like I can't laugh at this. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that Max being insecure again. It's like, no, this guy doesn't see Mexicans as people, and he's locking them up. Jesus Christ. I feel like don't not just sacrifice their formula for me, you know? I mean, they were always serious. It just, now with I don't know. Maybe it's too early to tell. Maybe it all wraps up better. But the fact that no one is talking about this game, that makes me think that they went off the deep end. Because I remember Life is Strange 1 had this, like, big thing about it, and it always had support. And I always thought it was a prank on me specifically, that people actually enjoyed that game. But, you know, it had supporters. This game I haven't heard anything about. I don't know if that's because everybody realized the trick that Telltale pulled was, like, you know, you remember when everybody had a boner for Telltale games? I think people just kind of got past that. So maybe Life is Strange 2 is just coming out at the wrong time. I don't know. But it sucks. I'm not having fun. Hopefully the last 2 episodes are good. Nira gifted me this game, and I was obliged to play it. I don't remember anything except that the ending had a pretty cool concept, and I sometimes controlled it with my voice by yelling at it. That usually didn't work. But noble try. Not a terrible game. It's just some, like, summer blockbuster stuff, but that's really it. Maybe I would have liked it if it came out the time that it did, instead of years later. It's silly, but it's not good. It's okay. Okay, I want to give a sincere fuck you to anyone who suggested I play this festering mason jar of trash juice. Oh my God, what was I thinking? I looked at it and I said, this is awful. And then I bought it for $17. I held off on playing this for a very, very, very long time because I thought that this looked like nothing but this disgusting, cheap Newgrounds take on Dark Souls. And the whole time I was right. I was literally right from looking at it. I only played like 6 or so hours, but in that time I couldn't find like a single thing to differentiate it or make it at all interesting. Everything was just so cookie cutter copy. Just in the 2D take doesn't make it more interesting. It just, like, it doesn't count because it looks like you're taking character designs from Neurotically Yours. I keep making this comparison on my stream, but look it up. Look up that Flash cartoon, Neurotically Yours. That's what this looks like. It looks like trash. I feel like there's inspiration, and then there's just, like, outright imitation. And this game had no cool ideas of its own, and I couldn't get invested. It's just such a piece of shit, dude. I'm still sore about the $17 that I lost from this. This is probably my least favorite game of the year. I tend to go with my gut on most games. Hollow Knight was an impulse purchase, and I bought Celeste based on the cover art, and I was right. I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. And then I looked at the gameplay. I was like, oh, I don't really like the pixels, but I'm going to give it a shot. And it was amazing. And I usually get lucky with that stuff. I should have listened to my inner voice because this game sucks. Oh my God, I hate it. I'm glad there's not a second one. I hope there never is. This is a student project at best. Show this to your former employers and work for a studio that can actually tell you what to do because you don't know what you're doing. This game sucks. It's terrible. Why did they do the camera this way? This is madness. I'm going to vomit. The whole game I felt like I was going to vomit. I don't remember much about it. It was pretty short and it was stupid, but that's kind of the point. And the combat did like the Uncharted thing where it's like really, really brain dead, and then it just spikes like crazy in a hallway, and it takes like 30 minutes, and then it goes back to brain dead. It's pretty fun. It's definitely not good. It was okay. I'm glad that I played it for like $5 or whatever. But the camera was the big standout. I don't know why they did that. I never got used to it. It was nuts. The Crew 2 is only on here because I played it. It might be the most bland, tasteless game I've ever played. It's up there. It just feels so unseasoned. The idea of driving coast to coast in a game always seemed like really cool to me. That was an idea I had like years and years ago, and I'm glad that a game actually did it. But like the Crew 2 found a way to make it just totally appealing. It's very Ubisoft, and it's just, I don't know, dude. Bring back Burnout. I just want Burnout again. Make Burnout. I get it now. I get it. I really do. After playing through Dark Souls 1 and 3 and Bloodborne, I always wanted to come back to what was like the proverbial dark sheep of the franchise. And after playing through Dark Souls 2, I totally get it. It really does feel like the developers tripled down on the difficulty meme that made the first game super marketable. And now there are just tons of enemy mobs, ridiculous bosses, at least 3 different Blight towns. Why did you do that? There are 3 different areas that I hated being in. Most of my experience in this game was spent angry at whatever hellhole I wandered into and just feeling like I'm fighting against the location as much as the enemies, and I didn't like that. Fighting against more knights and humanoids in one-on-one battles, that's kind of cool. I always liked those more. But the environments were just so frustrating that by the time I got to a fight I might have enjoyed, I was like exhausted. Do you guys remember that one area near the Smelter Knight with like 14 dudes? What the fuck is that? What were you thinking, FromSoft? Why did you do that? There's like 15 people in this room, and if I die to one of them, I gotta start over. Why did you do that to me? What did I do to you? I bought your game. I still beat all of it just to give it the chance that I thought it might have deserved, especially like since the DLC was supposed to be so much better, and I was it was motivating me, like a carrot on a stick. Everybody's like, oh, the DLC's good, the DLC's good. Then I got to the Sunken King area, I hated it, and I was told, oh yeah, well that one sucks, but wait till you get to the next DLC. Fuck off! Get out of here. I'm done. I don't like this game. I hated the first DLC. Maybe it does get better, but I'm not going to keep playing it. This wasn't fun. Not for me, and not for most people, apparently. And now I'm on their side. All right, some games just clearly are not for me, and Fortnite is one of them. If you watched last year's video when I talked about PUBG, you know my thoughts on like 99% of Battle Royales. That really hasn't changed at all. Everything I said last year still applies, except this game also has some building mechanics that I also hate. I don't like that either. I definitely like the aesthetic way more, and the developer's willingness to like take risks and try cool ideas and just like not worry about sort of competitive viability and stuff like that. I think that's really exciting. I really do. I know some people sort of bemoan them for creating these weird rule sets or things, you know, days before a tournament. I think it's great because this is the most played game in the world. Other people will take your spot. You don't want to play in that tournament? Fine. Get the hell out of here. Somebody else will do it. This game isn't for you. This game is for the people. I think that's really neat. I think the difference between Fortnite and a lot of other games in this area, like I'm covering in this section, is that I love the idea of Fortnite, and I really want it to keep succeeding. I think it's a really cool concept. Having a persistent online world in a game like this is a really cool, unique idea, and it's one that I hope Epic can continue to sort of innovate and grow on. You know, having the space change all the time, and like there's like even lore to it. I don't see myself playing this game ever again, but I'm glad it's around, and I hope it sticks around for a while. I think this game is really cool. Okay, here we go. This is the one that I know a lot of people were waiting for. Okay, Nier Automata. This game really grabbed me at the start, and it's the strength of its opening level and the free-flowing combat, it just all won me over immediately. I loved it. I thought this was really fun. I love the turret. I think that's a really cool thing, sort of this companion that flies around you. And I expected things to get weird and interesting and storytelling in a good way, and they did. It got really good. The theme park level was really cool. Some of the fights were super well done. There's a lot to enjoy here. I really do think that. And I don't always articulate that online because it's funnier just to act like I can't stand it. But really, this game was good to a point. After a couple of hours, I felt like this game just started to super wear on me. Just in terms of the combat, it was very repetitive, and it didn't have the level of expression or experimentation that even like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or other character action games have. And those I'm not even a huge fan of. I like those games, but I'm not like crazy about them. And then the game is just so excessively Japanese. Like, I don't know how to articulate this or how I feel about games like these, but it's just so Kingdom Hearts to me. Just the way the characters talk and the dialogue in these games, it's so... I don't want to say, like, rhetorical and metaphorical. It's just, I can't stand it, dude. I felt the exact same way about Bayonetta, and I don't know if it's like a translation thing or if it's like something to do with Japanese games through storytelling, what it is, but the dialogue was grating on me from the very beginning. Like, 2B and 9S feel like bog standard anime trope characters to me. And I don't, maybe it's just me, but like, I look at these characters and they just don't have anything cool or interesting about them. It's just like, 2B says something that's a little curt and harsh because she doesn't have emotions, and 9S is just like, oh, it does the anime noise. And that happens for the first, like, 8 hours, over and over. And, like, okay, maybe they open up and become interesting. I don't like them. I don't like them right now. I hate it. On top of that, I have no idea what the fuck anybody's ever saying, dude. Am I stupid? I just don't know what's going on, what they're trying to say. I just stopped caring. It's all just word salad filler nonsense. I don't get it. By the time that I finished 2B's story, I was done. I beat the game. I got ending A. And lots of people told me, well, that's only 1/5 of the game. You have so much more to do. But by that point, I saw nothing that inspired me to continue. If there was a payoff to be had, it was for someone who, like, enjoyed all the philosophical drivel that these characters are peddling. It's not someone who had no idea what they were on about in the first place. I had no reason to keep going. And people were like, well, 9S can hack stuff. I don't care. I'm not having fun. Am I just stupid? I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. I just hate the way that these characters talk, dude. I think there's a cool story in here for people that can live with it, but the way that it's told turned me off completely. I didn't care anymore. Part of me wonders if it's because I literally didn't grow up on anything Japanese, and I feel like you need a little bit, like, you need a little inoculation. You need to get the cold so you can not have it later. You need to watch Dragon Ball or Detective Conan, the kid one. You need to watch something like that so you can watch something like this and not feel embarrassed for yourself. I don't have that gene. I'm sorry. I didn't like it. If you did, that's great. I don't get it. I played it one time. I'll never play it again. I totally forgot that I played this game. I had to look at my archives to find it. So Remothered was touted as the next Clock Tower game in spirit. You sort of play as this defenseless young woman. You're trapped in a home with a maniac that's trying to kill you. You know, pretty good stuff. Things definitely start out strong. Amazing visuals and really good atmosphere. There's a real sense of foreboding here. But in time, once the curtain is pulled back a little bit, it's kind of obvious why games like this are so hard to get right, because so much of the game is just you watching and waiting for the killer and hoping they go in the right AI routine so you can slip past them. Like, so much of the game is just that. You're just waiting in a dresser or behind a door or something, and you just wait. And when they see you, it's just a couple minutes of the normal runaway shtick, and you get away, and then you're far enough away so you can jump in a cupboard, and then you wait for 3 minutes, and you come back out and hope the RNG is in your favor and he doesn't find you. It's so difficult to make a game like this that's genuinely tense, because after, like, the first 10 times you're caught, you're just annoyed. You're just going through the motions over and over again. And then you add in, like, the basic survival horror nonsense puzzles and an even more nonsensical plot. This made no sense, dude. I forgot what happened, and then I went back and watched it on YouTube. It still doesn't... I don't know. Seriously, look up the ending, dude. It's crazy. If you see her in the attic, you know you're in the right place. It's insane. And Remothered is just a lot of noise and colors, and nothing is going on beneath the surface. It's a shame because I really wanted to like it, but this is just all sizzle. The game itself just blows. I don't know what happened here with Iconoclasts. I remember liking it. I played through a couple hours, and I really enjoyed myself. And I don't even remember exactly what turned me off so much, but I think that's kind of the problem. I don't remember anything at all. The game started getting more and more like story heavy, and there's a lot of dialogue and plot, and it got kind of like, I don't want to say like Super Paper Mario-y, where everybody's just talking all the time, and the gameplay started to take a back seat, and like I wasn't that bedazzled by the gameplay anyway. So when that happened, I just sort of tuned it out entirely. I don't have this in my script, but the same thing happened to me with Owlboy. The gameplay is okay, and it's pretty, but the story wasn't that cool, and then I just got bored. I just petered out. I think I got in Iconoclast into something like a secret hideaway underwater ship. I don't know. I got really bored. I couldn't keep going. The fact that it couldn't keep my interest is why it's on this list. I know some people liked it. If you liked it, that's great. I didn't. Sorry. Okay, so now that we got the crap out of the way, the garbage, now we're going to get into games that I liked. Now, these aren't great games. I have a different list for that, but these are games that I think like serve their purpose well. These are like 7s or 8s? Probably lower. 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know. These games are good. If you're into these games, you're going to find out stuff that you like. I think that they executed well on their concepts. Maybe not my favorite games of the year, but I think that they're, better than the last ones, personally speaking. So here we go. This might be controversial, but the first one is Deltarune. It's a cool game. And that's really all I can say, actually. Toby Fox is very good at making cool games. I was not a fan of all the Undertale parallels. I would have much rather personally seen something that was either like explicitly in the same universe or in a different one entirely. But maybe there will be a good payoff. We only have the first part. I don't know. I have faith in Toby Fox, but this is a great game. I was worried that it wasn't going to be as funny as Undertale, but then eventually it picked up. I'm not a fan of the whole like power of friendship direction that the game seems to be going in. I know Undertale had a lot of that. But I really liked Undertale, and it's really entrenched in that JRPG like mother mold anyway. So whatever. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I don't like the way it tastes right now. I liked this. I'm sure I'll like the full game, but I didn't like it as much as I think I should, or I expected to. Maybe that'll change with the full game. I'm just letting you guys know right now. It's good. You should play it. What the hell was this? Somebody recommended that I give this a shot on Steam, and I beat it all in one sitting. It's really good. It's a really good game. It's nothing you haven't seen before. It's just like a standard like boss rush pixel shoot 'em up, but it handles really well, and the game looks and sounds good enough to make it worth the purchase. This is just a really good game. It's just solid all around. Is one that I'd recommend to anybody that likes this kind of stuff. It's just good. I don't really know what to say. You can watch it. Here, I'm showing you the trailer right now. If this looks like something you'll be into, just play it. You're probably into it. Try it out. Okay, first off, I need to reiterate that this video is all a matter of personal opinion. These are not good games. I would never, ever, ever play these alone. Ironically or otherwise, I would not waste my time. And I think it goes without saying, anybody that plays this stuff to get a better grasp of basic human communication is probably so far gone that they're a lost cause anyway, and they're going to get radicalized by the internet. But despite the fact that we can all agree on that, taken on their own terms, the Super Seducer games are hilarious. And they perfectly toe this line between like parody and earnestness in a way that's super fun to watch. Richard is a very good host because he exists in this weird space where like both the teacher and the student know that the lessons are bullshit, but he's clearly buying into it anyway. And apparently this isn't the case. Apparently he like believes he's drinking his own Kool-Aid, but I like to think that he's smart enough to not. Maybe that's giving him too much credit, but this game's hilarious. It's very fun. And the result is this game where, like the host, you're just not 100% sure what's next up its sleeve. And that makes it really fun to play with other people. It would be very easy to make something like this feel very like try hard or like, gimmicky. But like Super Seducer manages to toe this line perfectly. I don't know, dude. These games are super fun. I think Richard has a genuine sense of humor that's, sometimes a little weird and I don't want to say rapey, but these games are fun, dude. I would recommend them as a party game for pretty much anybody. They're great. Contradiction is a cool FMV detective game, and that's pretty much it. Decent acting across the board. Everybody's pretty good. The narrative is good enough, and it has a really refreshing approach to finding out what you need to do next. Most games like this sort of run the risk of having players drop out at every single roadblock because somebody's not going to be asked to keep going. But Contradiction circumvents this by like gently nudging you in the right direction a few different ways. I don't remember things feeling so strange or obtuse that I'd never guessed them. And while sometimes I do think it suffers from sort of the dev logic that's ever present in games like these, you know, adventure game point and click stuff, it never really got so bad that I didn't want to keep playing. Don't really know what else to say about it. This is a good game. It's a nice little FMV thing. I enjoyed it. You will too if you like these kind of games. Considering I have an audience of maybe 500 people that watch this video, I would assume 0 of you are interested, but it's kind of cool. I really, really, really wanted to like The Messenger. And for a while I did. I'd never really been a huge fan of Ninja Gaiden, but the 8-bit portion of this game was just ace. It's simple action game stuff, but it's executed very well. It's super tight. But the problem comes later on when the big reveal happens and Messenger sort of switches from 8-bit Ninja Gaiden to a 16-bit Metroidvania, and there it gets not as fun. I can really appreciate what they were trying. I think it's a cool idea, but to me, it just didn't stick. Exploring the world wasn't as fun as I think is necessary for a game like this, if you're going to do a lot of backtracking. And by the end, I started to feel like it outstayed its welcome. It's not even a very long game, but it just got super grating. The idea of this game is a very interesting one. The idea that you're like one of many vessels that existed throughout time in the form of video game characters, and you have to pass this torch. But I don't even think that's explained all that well. And the fourth wall breaking meta humor really gets annoying after a while. Like, I get it, dude. It's very Borderlands-esque. I still would recommend it to anybody interested in indie or retro stuff or, you know, Ninja Gaiden. But it definitely doesn't reach the highs of other games in its immediate vicinity. And I think if you're making that direct comparison, this game is going to fall flat. Maybe Hollow Knight raised the bar too high. I don't know. Maybe my expectations are too high. But Messenger was good, not great. It's okay. 6 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10. I stand by that. 6 out of 10 is not bad. It's okay. I love Donut County. This game is cute and funny. It's about a hole that swallows stuff up. It's kind of like a reverse Katamari. Some of the puzzles are really funny. You should play it. It's very small, and it's a very simple idea, which is why it's on this list and not the next one, but it's very cute. You should try it. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Okay. Here we go. I really, really liked this game. Really. It's my number 3 most played game of all time on Steam, and, like, I think number 2 is a clicker game. It's like TF2, Adventure Capitalist, and then this. I really like this game. The bones of it. Anyway, I was never really sold on the art style, and it never really managed to escape that early access sort of beta feel. But good lord, dude, I genuinely think this is the best foundation a Smash-like game has ever had. I think too many other games try to sort of copy the Smash formula, but then they go a little nuts in the process. It's like finding out a place gives you green beans, but there's ham in the green beans, and you're like, no, I just wanted green beans. I don't want that extra stuff. Icons had a very risky strategy in that it wanted to just insert Smash staples. Like, there's a Marth, there's a Fox, there's, you know, Zana is basically like half Ganon. And I get why they did it, but it ultimately didn't pay off. I think it could have. I think they needed to give hardcore players a reason to switch over, and I legitimately think that there's an untapped market for a Smash clone on Steam that's more in line with the series than, like, divergent mainstays like Brawlhalla or Rivals. I still think that's the case. Eventually, more interesting characters came along, stuff that wasn't already in Smash, stuff like Afigalu, Wei Shan. Sorry, it took me a while to think about his name. Big Sean. Yeah, more interesting characters came along, and I have no doubt that the game could have been phenomenal given enough time and enough fuel, but sadly it ran out of juice before any of that happened. I genuinely think this could have been a big thing, and I'm sad that it's not, but I get it. I understand why. I personally, this is just my opinion, again, I think the fault here lies with the setting of the game, sort of hand in hand with the art style. You need a wide range of interesting characters to make a game like this work. They don't necessarily have to be Nintendo royalty, but something people would sort of want to play as. I think that's why Slap City got so many eyes on it, because it's so ridiculous. This game's look of just Overwatch in space, it might have broad appeal, but it's as shallow as a puddle. And because of that, it means that people aren't going to get invested. And considering the game's focus on the hardcore crowd, I think the whole tone of the game was sort of at odds with itself, because they really tried to bank on hardcore players, and instead they just give them this super casual looking, almost mobile game look to it, you know? I think it's a shame that it didn't pop off, but I still like it. I still think it's super fun. I loved the game when it was popping, and Zana is incredibly fun. I'm sad it wasn't bigger. Mario Tennis Ace is a fun game. It's not a fighting game like so many people were trying to push, but it's still really fun. So many people wanted to have you believe it was a fighting game. It's not. It's fun. Up until you realize that so much of the game can just be played at the net, and then you just kind of drew the trick shot back to block any balls. Then it got less fun. I don't know if that's just like a mid-level scrub killer that actual good players were able to figure out and beat. Maybe I'm just bad. Well, I was bad, but maybe I just never got around it. I don't know. I didn't stick around to see if the meta got past that point. And if the tournaments are any indication, nobody else did either, because they were quickly drying up even a month after release. But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with a fun little flash in the pan. I feel about this game how I think most people probably feel about ARMS, and that it just felt kind of shallow. Obviously, I'm more positive, because I think games like this are cool, and I think it's okay to have games that maybe not everybody's into for a long time. I think it was fine, but not great. Not much to say about this one. Moonlighter is a pretty decent roguelike dungeon crawler, and it's supplemented by a super basic, but still pretty satisfying shopkeep game. It's a lot like that anime one that you're probably thinking of right now if you know video games. Moonlighter is fun, but it is very forgettable. Pick it up if you have a flight. I love David Cage games. I love them. I have a very big soft spot for single-person auteur games, you know? But David Cage games are special. They're made by a French dude with a penchant for insane melodrama. And in this one, he is really trying his best to raise all these questions about artificial intelligence and socio-political class structures and obsolescence and poverty and over-reliance on technology and slavery sometimes, too. Like, there's a lot in here, and it's all wrapped up in this weird mosaic of what you want it to be thoughtful art house films. And then there's, like, a buddy cop comedy in there, and then there's also summer blockbusters. Like, the tone is all over the place. It's as crazy as you would expect, and it's great for that. And honestly, Detroit is probably the best thing Cage has made, both in terms of narrative and gameplay, I mean, if you want to call it that. There are lots of misses, for sure, and I'm always feeling like a little mean and cynical for rolling my eyes at his super earnest style. But this is a really good time if you and your boys just want to get a game from the red box and play through it in one night. If you don't ask too many questions or take it too seriously, then this is just amazing. Cage is never as smart as he thinks he is, but he makes a really funny game. I would recommend this to pretty much anybody. You should check it out. As long as you're not that guy that's really trying to convince everybody that video games are art, just shut up and have a good time, dude. This game's a riot. The End Is Nigh is a platformer made by the guys, or maybe one guy. I don't know. I'm not looking it up. Somebody that made Super Meat Boy, and that should be all I have to tell you. The mechanics are a little different, and the experience of controlling this amorphous blob instead of this defined, super rigid cube of meat, it's a little strange at first, but you get used to it. I really love the Switch's library of these relatively simple platformers, roguelikes, stuff like that. I think this is just another one on that list. It's fine, it's very simple, but it's good if this is what you're looking for. Check it out. Okay, so Darwin Project is one of the most interesting endeavors I've ever seen. I love the idea of this game. Here, let me tell you why. This is basically a small-scale battle royale game with maybe like 12 people, and it has a much more like arcadey feel. There's less emphasis on looting. But the big ace up its sleeve is this director system where one player acts as sort of a host to the game, like it's a game show. And the host can help or hinder whoever they like at any time. They can really change the game in these really cool ways. They can spawn items, give temporary buffs or debuffs, close off certain portions of the map. They can decide, how the circle is going to close in certain ways. Pretty much everything they try to pull off in Hunger Games, you can do in this game, and that's really cool. It's a really intriguing idea, and there's a lot of meat on this, but the downfall here, the other side of the coin, is that it's ultimately reliant on the whims of the player base, and I'm pretty misanthropic myself. This game made it worse because there are so many blowhard wannabes that are just so annoying, and they're just trying to make content for their 3,000 subscriber YouTube. This is a really cool idea for a game, and every time I would start to have fun, I would have this guy speaking directly to me, because hosts can do that, and he's aggressively memeing in my ear. He's telling me to bark like a dog so I can get treats from him. He just wants to put it in this epic montage for his mom to watch because he has nobody else watching his videos. This is the perfect game for anybody that has TTV in their username. I would recommend this to anybody that does that. I ran into plenty of good hosts too, so I don't want to make it sound like it's like all like that, because honestly it's not. It's just that is the honey that this game has, and it attracts a certain type of fly. Does that metaphor work for you personally? Leave me a comment letting me know. It attracts people like that. And if you get your personality transplanted through the internet, you're going to love this game because you get to do that with other people. If you are that person, then you'll like it because you can be a host and annoy people like me all day. Doesn't that sound fun? You're just not going to have anybody to play with in about 6 months. Okay, now we get to the really good stuff. Here we go. So we had games I didn't like, games I did like. These are games that I really liked. They're not quite in my top 5 because of different reasons. 2 of them should be, but they came out the year before and I just now started playing them, so they're going to get beat out by my number 5, which sucks, but what can you do? These are all the games that I played last year that I really, really liked and that I thought were amazing, and these come highly recommended. Check these out. So when I heard that the guy that made Pony Island just released his latest game, I knew that I had to check it out. Pony Island was this pretty short, but it was a cool little gem that played with sort of player/game interactions in ways that were still novel back then when it came out. I think that they're kind of overexposed now between that and Doki Doki and stuff like that. It was really good, but it felt more like a proof of concept than anything else, not really a full-fledged game, but it was a really cool start. In contrast, the Hex feels like a full-fledged game. It feels bigger. It's one that toys with player expectations and assumed understandings of gameplay in the best way. I really don't want to talk about this game too much because I really want you to play it, you the person watching it, unless you watch me play it on stream and then don't waste your time. But maybe play it again because I played it a while ago and maybe you won't remember it. This is a really cool game, and the less you know about it, the better when you go into it. If you like video games at all, you should play this. It's amazing. Please, check it out. It's called The Hex. Please. Okay, don't leave, because I'm not messing with you. This game is unironically great. Not even as a joke. This is an amazing idea for a game, and I can't believe it took me this long to play it. Admittedly, I played the re-release, and I played the updated version that shows all the cameras at once. I cannot imagine playing it with 1996 restrictions, because good God, that sounds like a disaster. Could you imagine doing that? Oh my God, having to switch around all the... no way. I would not do that. But this version is very fun. What I think is unique about the game in comparison to a lot of other sort of ironic games that I played, the year before that were in the good section, I could genuinely see myself playing this alone. Like, I can't see myself playing Detroit or Super Seducer, anything like that alone. But this game, I feel like I would just to experience it. It was good enough to keep me going, even with its sometimes unforgiving checkpoint system, especially at the end. And the core concept of the game is one that I can't believe people haven't toyed more with in the years since. I know that FMV is sort of a dead genre, but seriously, this is really cool. The gameplay is simple, but it's fun enough to stay engaging, and the B-movie sort of schlock is grade A. Seriously, it's incredible. I would honestly recommend this to most people, especially if they have friends, but if you're interested in how these games work, or, just sort of novelties like this, I would definitely recommend it. Even alone, dude. This game is super fun. Why didn't I play this years ago? Oh my god, this game is awesome. Okay, I think I wrote the most about this game than anything else, so hear me out. So from the offset, Hitman appears to be this sort of elaborate, intricate series of, Rube Goldberg machines, and each tiny interaction pulls these delicate wires, and they pull beads into place and set up for this final killing blow money shot. And you can play like that. You can be that super calculating, sort of super genius, Wile E. Coyote style. Or it could be this lawless sandbox of just chaos and juvenile prankitude, which is really, really, really funny. And I love Hitman's approach to making these levels as huge and as varied as possible, and many of them have multiple targets, and it gives you a chance to approach kills in a multitude of different ways. It has this magic way of making you feel incredibly suave and smart for even the most base kills, which is it's a difficult trick to pull. The fact that I usually felt equally satisfied when I spent 30 minutes setting up someone's demise is when I just lured them into a room and shot them in the head. That really speaks to the game's dedication to letting you play how you want. This game really lets you do that in a way that other games pretend to. And whatever story is here, it really takes a backseat to the sheer ingenuity of the levels themselves. And they give you ample opportunities to succeed and fail, but they never really railroad you into either. You can pull off the kill after stumbling through the entire mission, screwing up, but you can also set up this elaborate, crazy long trap and then mess up at the last minute, and it undoes all your hard work in a hilarious way. And the game has this extremely forgiving save state feature that a lot of people, I think, would cry out against because you can really just save at any time. But it's a boon because you leave the level of challenge purely up to the player, which feels kind of bold. You're letting the player decide what they want to do, not just in the mission, but also, sort of in the meta sense of okay, if you want to, save state here, then kill this dude to see if you can get away with it and then reload, that's fine, go for it. In an industry where things seem to be getting more, casualized, this game has it both ways in this really magic way. I don't know. Hitman is a game brimming with stuff to do, and it gives you all the motivation and opportunity to actually do them. This game is sincerely a gem, and it would have been in my top 5 if I had played it in the year before. And even in 2017, I think. It's really sad that Hitman and the sequel appear to have done just so poorly, because it really does feel like these games are tapping into something uncharted. It's like some kind of niche. Yes, I know that they're past Hitman games, but they weren't like this, dude. I hope they find a way to keep making these, because these games are phenomenal, and I think it's a travesty. It's a crime that they're flying this far under the radar. These games are so cool. Super Mario Party is great. I skipped out on the past few Mario Party games because they seemed to go in a different direction than I was interested in. Mario Party 8 was the last one that I played, and while my wife and I got a ton of mileage out of it, it never really felt special. I know there's the Soul Soulless meme, but it always felt fine, but not great. Super Mario Party somehow has that it factor to it that got us to play it more. Maybe it's because the Switch is so accessible, maybe it's because the minigames are so good, or the specific dice for each character that lets you sort of take risks and play strategically. I don't know. All I know is that I love Mario Party, and this is an incredibly solid Mario Party game, which is all I wanted. Obviously, I don't know what the hell Nintendo was thinking with the online. That they're crazy for that one, not letting you play with friends. That's stupid. I can understand not playing with random people, but not with friends. That's ridiculous. And then the board selection is really small. I think there are only 4 boards, which is awful, but I would rather have 4 good boards than usually what happens in Mario Party, where there are 2 good boards and then 6 terrible ones. This is fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Yeah, Super Mario Party is really good. Check it out if you're into Mario Party games. But if you're into Mario Party games, you probably already did, in which case, keep playing it and enjoy. Oh, wait, I thought of one more thing. I hate unlocking the characters. Why did they do that? Why did they make you unlock characters in a party game? Now I'm mad. Whatever, it's still good. Jeez, they really laid it on thick with this one, huh? Wolfenstein's whole fuck Nazi shtick has always tied in super nicely with the over-the-top B-movie grindhouse tone that it has now adopted in the last few games that has always sort of been there, but has been more realized in recent modern times. And while it always felt a little exploitative, I think, the game itself is great. It's really interesting to me that Wolfenstein exists somewhere in the middle between these crawlingly slow cover shooters like COD, Call of Duty, and then like the kinetic mania of Doom. It reaches the balance super well, has enough variety through its campaign that you never really feel tired of any one playstyle for too long. I really enjoyed myself all the way through, and I think that the mix of styles is what makes the game so good. You're never stuck doing the same thing for too long, and it really encourages you to try different stuff. Some games are held up by gameplay. Some games are sort of boosted by their narrative and cutscenes, and the gameplay's okay. In this one, you really get a very solid shooter that sometimes leads you into a room where you get to audition to play Hitler in a movie in front of Hitler himself, and then you can kill Hitler if you want to, or Hitler can shoot you in the head. Hitler's in this game. It's pretty cool. This game is great. Check it out. I should have played Prey way, way sooner. I think Prey has got to be the most overlooked game of the generation by a mile. I can't think of anything else. Please leave a comment if you have a different answer, because I think it's this. Most people made the obvious comparison with BioShock when you look at it, but Prey actually is a lot more in common with its spiritual predecessor, System Shock, because BioShock's puzzles had, at best, 2 ways of solving them. At best. But Prey leaves tons of avenues open. The game's flexibility in its level design is an incredible feat. And there are things like the foam gun, which let you make your own paths. It really lets you play the way that you want to throughout the whole thing. Every problem that the game presents you with has multiple solutions, and playing with the mechanics that come up with your own path is always super fun, and it makes you feel so smart, even though you're really just solving the game's puzzles. So what you've got here is essentially like a first-person Metroidvania more than anything else, and it's riddled with tons of cool diversions, like one-off puzzles and really well-acted audio logs. The story is really cool. But a lot like BioShock, the gunplay was way less fun. Enemies take a lot of energy to kill, not in terms of like ammo necessarily, but a lot of mental energy to kill a single thing. And then they respawn anyway, so I ended up just running a lot in my playthrough, which is good to evoke a sense of dread early on, but when you're like 15 hours into a 20-hour game, that fear goes away. It turns to annoyance very quickly. Maybe it would have offset the tone too much, but I would have much preferred the game like give me something way stronger later on so I could just mow down enemies so the backtracking wasn't as much of a hassle. Maybe that would have totally defeated the purpose of the game and killed the tone. I don't know. All I know is that it was enough to make the game less fun near the end. It actually probably would have been on my top 5 on this list if it came out this year, but it came out in a way stronger year, unfortunately, which I think why it's so overlooked. So instead, my number 5 is Far Cry 5. Sorry for spoilers. You're going to figure that out in a second anyway. I didn't like it all that much, but Prey's great. It should be higher, and you should have played it by now. Shame on you. Pretty Tetris! There's some storytelling going on here about like mankind's ingenuity and perseverance and our industriousness that erects buildings and has given us the modern world we know today and society and culture. And in all honesty, it ties in very well with Tetris's MO of sort of making order out of chaos. It's a cool idea, but in the end, it's just Tetris with pretty sounds and colors. That's it. That's all it has to be. It's amazing. Play it if you like Tetris. Okay, and here we go. These are my top 5 games that I played in 2018. And actually, all these came out in 2018 because I had to make that caveat. So no Prey, no Wolfenstein, nothing like that that might have made it. No, we're going to talk about these games. These are my top 5 games of the year. You will not be surprised by, well, you might be surprised by number 5 because it's not that good, but you will not be surprised by the other 4, probably in any order, because these were the toppest games of the year, and the year was very top-heavy, so you know what's coming. Anyway, let's get it popping. I would like to think most other years, Far Cry 5 would not be on the top 5 at all. Far Cry as a series has become something of like a name brand. It's this soulless collection of mechanics and ingredients that you expect to check all your boxes year after year. And I've said before that it almost feels violating in a way, because it's a game where you regularly check off boxes to get your trickle of dopamine. I feel like I'm just pushing a button. It's like a Skinner's box, you know? And I feel like a lot of games do that, but to me, none of them feel so distilled and clinical as Far Cry. It's like a pill I'm taking. And I feel like it's an Excel spreadsheet, you know? I guess that's why the series hasn't really changed much at all since Far Cry 3, where they found that winning formula and they've been milking it ever since. The story kind of postures like it has something important to say at the onset, but really it's the same charismatic bad guy with ambiguous motives that we've seen in so many other games. They even recycle the same motifs twice with two different sub-villains, which really annoyed me. One of them uses drugs and another uses music, and they subjugate the population, but it's basically the same thing. It's just mind control. And it's so weird because the third guy has a whole unique spin to him, but whatever. I don't really care that much. It's just, they really acted like they were going to do something cool with the story, and then they didn't. And the gameplay is exactly the same as it's always been. It's just Far Cry. So if you heard me talk this far, it sounds like I hate it. I've said a lot of bad stuff, and it feels like a disappointment that this is in my top 5, just to reiterate. But 2018 was pretty barren for me personally, and truthfully, it's not all bad. The shooting is fine, it's satisfying, and some of the missions are pretty cool. The characters themselves are neat. It's fine. It's another Far Cry. If you like Far Cry, do it. This is kind of a guilty pleasure series of mine. Check it out if you're into stuff like this. If not, just please pass. It's fine. If Spider-Man is truly the start of a Marvel game universe like it's been hinted at, then I'm very excited. I do think this could be to superhero games what Iron Man was to superhero movies. Spider-Man doesn't really do anything wholly unique, but it takes lots of elements from other games, so like Arkham Combat, Ubisoft-style open worlds, Mirror's Edge, light parkour, even Pipe Dream, and it refines and polishes them to this mirror sheen, and the result is a game that looks and plays amazing. There's so many thoughtful choices here. The New York City open world is large without ever feeling bloated. The cool challenges and things that test the player's mastery of different mechanics, that's really cool. Even down to the story's depiction of well-worn characters that everybody knows by now. The way that they handled Doc Ock in this game is incredible, and I'm really glad they didn't go with the easy sort of origin story route. In the end, I think the secret sauce for this game comes in the web-slinging the movement throughout the city. It really does make traversing the city feel like a total joy. I never got bored going anywhere. And overall, I feel like this game has a very laid-back, sort of chill vibe to it in a lot of different ways. It'll clearly tell you where all the collectibles are on the map. It just gently encourages you to get them. It doesn't like hide them or make you get anything else. It just pushes you in the direction of your next thing. It never feels dire. I mean, even the achievements were easy to 100%. And in any other game, this might feel too easy, pandering, like hand-holding. But because of the game's confident presentation, it comes off as this sort of, assured, breezy game that encourages you to explore everything without asking, I really do like this game. In a world of way too vast AAA titles that ask for dozens and dozens of hours of tedium to see and experience everything, I would really love to see more games like this. Spider-Man is very lean in a lot of ways. There's not much fat here, and I really love it for that. I think it is a statement to make a game this big feel this complete and not feel totally bloated. I think more games should go in this direction, and I'm really excited for, hopefully, other studios sort of taking the lead in this way. God of War was 2018's Game of the Year for most people, and I could totally see why. I said when I first started this game that it felt like the first quadruple A game that I'd ever played, because the amount of polish here is unfathomable. This is, simply put, an unsustainable level of effort, seriously. Everything in here is showcase ready. The combat feels deliberate, kind of like a Souls game, but it still feels in line with the series' hack and slash roots, and it creates this really refreshing rhythm to all your attacks. The way that the game drops expository dialogue feels really natural. It never feels like people are just explaining the story to you for no reason. The whole game takes place in a single shot, and it never breaks focus on Kratos. And I think in most games, this would feel contrived, like a cheap gimmick, but it feels natural, and it's something that grounds you to the characters and the world that you're in. And because of the sheer brilliance of its execution, it's a trick I don't think other games can ape. Like, other games can't imitate this. Just, you can't replicate that. But honestly, the real star of the game for me was Atreus, who, he's the boy, he's the son who follows you throughout the whole game. And to me, he never felt annoying or extraneous, except for one time, the whole, wait, so I'm a god, so I don't have to be nice to people. That story beat is cool in theory, but it comes out of nowhere and it gets snuffed out just as quickly. It was really bad. And maybe, like, if I did other story stuff, if I laid off on the story stuff for a little while, it wouldn't have felt so abrupt. But I don't know what happened there. That kind of sucked, but everything else was good. Back to my point. In so many games like this, these characters feel truly ancillary. In BioShock Infinite, Elizabeth feels like a supply bot. She just throws you stuff. In The Last of Us, Ellie is this totally invincible, immersion-breaking loudmouth. She never shuts up. She's running all over a room. She's running into clickers, and you're just like, Ellie, stop. And it totally takes you out of the moment. They're totally fine as characters, but in moment-to-moment gameplay, they're subordinate. They're unnecessary. You don't need them. You get the sense that you could kind of stuff them in your backpack and you wouldn't lose anything. Just pull them out every once in a while. But in contrast, Atreus is a part of the action at all times. He's constantly dodging, dipping around fights. You can always see him. He responds to your inputs with arrows immediately, and he calls out threats that you can't see behind you. And then out of combat, he's pointing out things about the game's world without feeling condescending. Sometimes he even clues you into secrets that you might not find otherwise. I just love the way Atreus is handled, and I think it really shows Sony Santa Monica putting an incredible amount of consideration into the game to justify his inclusion. Because you could have just thrown him in and not really thought about it at all, but they really thought about how to make this kid worth... Yeah, he's worth it. He pulls his weight. And the result is something that feels whole and not just like it's trying to ape other games like a daddy simulator, you know? I think a lot of people were worried about that when they saw this, but it's a really good game. I would say that God of War would set the standard for AAA games for years to come, but considering all the magic this game pulls off, I don't think that's possible. Like I said before, I think this is unsustainable. I think Sony Santa Monica pulled off some magic here, dude. I actually ended up writing a lot more than I thought I would and gushing a lot more than I expected to. Maybe it should have been even higher. I don't know. It's great. You'll hear my reasoning why it's not in a second, but if you didn't play this, you did yourself a disservice. Even if you don't like AAA games like this, you should still try it. But maybe not, because I know a lot of people that don't like it. But seriously, this is amazing. So do you remember earlier where I said I was a sucker for auteur games? You know, like games made by one single person, one vision, sort of having a cohesive theme that I really like that. Technically, Celeste doesn't count, but it does have the whole pretentious indie hipster vibe that I dig so much. So I'm going to put it in that category anyway. But Celeste is incredible. The triumph of Celeste is that it's not just that. In another universe, I could totally see Celeste being another sort of dollar store Unity game on Steam. The same walking sim hitting the same story beats about anxiety, mental illness, depression, blah, blah, blah. You know the type of game that I'm talking about. One with this huge reveal in the end that it's all taking place in your head and childhood trauma. It's like, there's a lot of that. And while I don't dispute that that stuff is important, you know, mental health, whatever, it's hard to shake the feeling that you're just watching something spill out of the screen. I could get the same experience watching Black Swan while holding W on my keyboard, if I really wanted to. It wouldn't change anything. Celeste is different in that it really marries gameplay and narrative in a way that's so simple, it's crazy other games haven't done it like this before. And I feel like other games might have tried, but Celeste just does it beautifully. The platforming is pixel perfect, and it nails that sweet spot between frustration and satisfaction. After finishing the entire game and all the post-game content, I got everything. After doing everything there was to do in Celeste, I honestly can't remember a single time where I felt annoyed at a game mechanic or that the game was asking something unfair of me. And that is a monumental feat for a game like this. For a game that puts you through the stuff this game puts you through. That's insane. I don't know how it pulled that off. It pulls off this magic trick of being obscenely difficult without feeling sadistic, but Celeste finds the way. The result is a game that you just never want to put down. It just feels so good to play, man. It's a joy. And it's funny that I have less to say about Celeste than I did God of War, considering it ranks higher for me. But personally, I appreciate the simplicity in Celeste's execution and what that means for gaming as a whole. It feels elegant, you know? This isn't a multi-million-dollar game spanning 5 years of development. I'm going to make a food metaphor, and I know people hate those, but if God of War is the video game equivalent of a 5-star beef Wellington, something very difficult, something complicated to make, but is delicious in the end, Celeste is like the best grilled cheese sandwich you've ever had. It's incredible, and it's all you need, and it's so small, and it's only well, it's not $15. If you pay $15 for a grilled cheese sandwich, it's probably artisanal, and you got ripped off. But Celeste is amazing, and it's so tiny. It is divine, but it is still not number one, and it is for this reason. Red Dead Redemption 2 is my game of 2018. Full disclosure, I love cowboy shit. I love it so much, dude. I love it. Westerns are my favorite setting in any kind of fiction, and we don't get a lot of it in video games. And I've read a lot of critiques about Red Dead 2. It's slow-paced. It feels muddy. It's poorly paced. It's way too detailed. And I agree with all those things. I think that is totally true. But I still love it. It's still incredible. I know the game falls off a cliff once they get stranded on the island. I don't care. The game is a revelation. I've been very public about my dislike about Breath of the Wild, but pretty much everything I criticize Breath of the Wild for, I love in Red Dead Redemption. I get it now. I do. The simplest reason would just be me liking the Western setting more than Zelda's high fantasy, and that might be it, but let me try to be objective here for a second. Just, hear me out. If I'm wrong, that's fine, but I think there's more stuff going on here, but maybe I'm wrong. Red Dead's open world is a game changer. It should be the industry standard. It is a marvel. The sheer amount of things to do and people to meet and just experiences is staggering. The random encounters are some of the most memorable parts of my experience, and they're not even tied to any mission. You could totally miss that stuff. It honestly feels like anything can happen in this game, and I don't get that feeling with any other game I've ever played. Exploring the frontier was just some of the most captivating experiences I've ever had in a game, and that's to say nothing of the narrative, the gunplay, characters, everything else. It's truly bizarre to me that I loved Red Dead 2 as much as I did, because usually I'm a fan of more concise, controlled, sort of focused games. That's why I loved Banjo-Kazooie so much, but I hated Banjo-Tooie. But god damn it, never did I get bored playing this game. And it's a Rockstar game. That's a big deal. I didn't get bored playing a Rockstar game. I loved all the characters. I loved all the places you went to. I thought the game fell off a cliff in terms of story, but I didn't care because I liked the characters. Dutch is amazing. I could come up with a million rationalizations for it. I can deconstruct the mechanics that push me forward. I could analyze elements of the plot that kept me invested, but that would take a really long time. And honestly, dude, it really might just be cowboys. I might be an 8-year-old here. I don't know. I loved being in this world more than any other game I've ever played. It is absolutely my game of 2018. If you don't think so, then whatever, Potsy. You can sit on it. Why don't you go hang out with other nerds? It's a real man's game. Cowboy stuff. Very good game. Rockstar, please don't take another 15 years to make one. Please. I need more Westerns. You're the only person doing it. Make it now.